Hello out there, Foxes fans, and welcome back to another edition of the U.S. Foxes podcast, coming to you live, as always, from various time zones around the United States. I, as always, am your co-host, Matt Folks, joined by my fellow co-hosts tonight, Mr. Chris Warner up in Del Mar. What's up, bud?
Mate, you had more energy in that first 20 seconds than I saw on the entire pitch last night. How you doing, mate? Yeah. I mean, I wish I could be joining you boys in a better circumstances than what's happened over these past 7 days. I mean, just everything that could go wrong went wrong. It's a shambles on the pitch. It's a shambles off the pitch. Yeah.
All self-inflicted too. Yeah. Also joined this evening by our good friend down in Houston, Texas, Mr. Jim Harris. What's up, bud?
Probably about the same as Chris, actually, and also yourself, Matt. But I couldn't think of two better people to commiserate with and share our woes or our wouts in public. And
yeah,
so at least we have this.
Wout A Mess. Wout A Mess, indeed. Shout out to our other co-host in New York City, Jason Becker. He's got some work shit going on, so he luckily gets to skip this fun show that we're about to indulge on. But shout out to Jason. Yeah, guys, coming to you live. It is Tuesday evening here in San Diego, and coming to you live after two just gut-wrenching defeats. We had spoken in the last match. Well, we spoke in the last pod about a lot of things. The emergence of Daniel Everson was one of my favorite topics, and that's gone just about the way of our chances of staying in the Premier League. So it's kind of a fitting thing. Yeah, defeats to Fulham and Liverpool have our Foxes now in the most dire situation that we've been in, well, quite a long time, almost a decade, I'd say, boys. Chris, we'll start with you, man. Where's your head right now with this team and these players that some of them certainly seem to be checking out next year's clubs?
I don't know where to start. Okay, my head, it's been a crazy 24 hours. I think immediately after the Liverpool game, my first thoughts were, all right, resigning to the fact it's going to be Stoke away on a Tuesday night in the middle of February coming next year. And then kind of talking to you boys before this and just hearing the idea that all we really need at the moment is a win. They're just keeping me on the edge. They're just keeping that last little thread of hope. And they say it's the hope that kills you. And it really is. I mean, yesterday was a mess. I wrote down some notes during the game, and it sounds like, I'm just looking at them, it sounds like a Shakespearean tragedy. It starts off great, aggressive from the start, Maddison with an edge. And then as you go through, it just gets Tielemans falling over. We're not organised. Why such a high line? We switch off again. And at the end, mate, I just said, get rid of them all. Because that's sometimes how you feel. It's like, to your point, commitment, passion, like, 32,000 down there again last night, giving everything, clappers, singing, cheering the boys on, and just the most lackluster performance when you don't need it, mate. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean to give you false hope when we were talking during the pre-show shit here. I was just going over the math of the thing. I mean, because how you could get any semblance of hope or anything after watching the shitbags that we saw on the pitch wearing blue yesterday, and the amount of effort that they just did not give, plain and simple. I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired or inspired, Jim.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of getting a bit farcical in a way, because as Chris said, first 25 minutes, a glimmer of hope again. And, I know we're kind of skipping straight to Liverpool, but I don't think anyone wants to go back and talk about that Fulham game where an indirect free kick or, a cross goes in for the first goal to crush our hopes in, the first 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
An absolute debacle of 20 minutes and the game's gone already. And we, I was listening as, as a listener for the last couple, So thanks I missed you guys for that, and missing Jason tonight. But the positivity we kind of had of like, oh, Dean Smith and co are starting to at least show that we're putting in some effort and some John Terry maybe hopefully get the defenders organized, and at least Daniel Everson's keeping, I know we had some like, yeah, we'd have been maybe battered by Everton, but if Daniel Everson hadn't become a second coming of Gordon Banks, but at least we kind of had a bit of something to cling on to, and we went to Fulham with, okay, this is now the must win, and we felt positive. And clearly that didn't happen. Clearly Fulham listened to our podcasts and took offense to that. And once again, missing a penalty, once again, confusion over what's happening.
Yeah, that 5-3 scoreline is a bit a bit kind to us. Yes, definitely.
It feels like from earlier in the season when we talked about beating Forest 4-0, but it was flattering. The scoreline didn't represent the game.
Right.
And look, if the fact that we spammed a win against Forest 4-0 and we stay up on the last day and with 1 goal difference, I don't care. Like at the end of the day now, it's just like grinding it. But I don't see the ability to grind, as Chris said. That it's just we're like Moses is the attacking opposition, and he's parting the sea, and the midfield is non-existent. We have defenders or a defender, I'm going to say, who decides when he wants to head the ball or not, or do something. And there's too many individual mistakes, and there's not any real sort of like effort. And I think that's the most galling thing, that, as Chris said, 32,000 plus fans, the first 25 minutes, you could hear them, from the TV.
Literally didn't stop.
They did not stop. To our friends there, Chris Watts, who was over there from North Carolina with Matthew, fellow US Foxes friends. And then all of a sudden, it's just like a freaking hoof from Allison that should have just been cleared. But anyway, I'm going to stop now. I've been ranting. Like, Matt, what do you feel like? You asked us. We need
no,
to
it starts with, we looked at Fulham as our chance to get some inspiration for somebody to take the game and say, this is not how we play. This is where this ends. This is where we right the ship and take some momentum into Liverpool. And instead we made them look like fucking Manchester City. And I mean, honestly, it could have been 8-0. I feel like Fulham did us a favor and took their foot off the freaking gas. And I mean, then with Liverpool, to have that stadium sounding like it did pre-kickoff, and like you said, the first 15 minutes just absolutely deafening to guys. When you can hear the KP through your TV at home, it is loud in there, and it did not stop making noise for damn near 15 minutes until our own players sucked the very life out of the 30,000 plus that had showed up and done their job, and were being loud, and were drowning out the Liverpool support. You could not hear a fucking single Liverpool song until Jurgen Klopp and his boys just decided that, we're just going to will this. We want this way more, and we're just about to show you. And I don't know how you could be anything other than just resigned to, I fucking player next year in the championship, because that's how we're all going to be watching the games, watching this effort. Now, I mean, is there some crazy chance that this team shows up against Newcastle? Like, what hope do you have that what have we seen at all in the last 4 months that gives you any hope whatsoever that we can show up and get a result there? It's very, very disheartening. And it's been a tough week for me, kind of coming to the realization that, it's been 8 years of being fucking spoiled as Leicester fans. And, I think we all have a little, bit of crow to eat. And I've definitely been guilty about thinking that we were safe and beyond this point with our ownership situation being as strong as it was, we thought, and our, when Brendan was riding the world, and we had all of this, 5th place finishes here and FA Cup there, and it's a tough realization and a pill to swallow now, seeing where we are and where we're headed as a club, and yeah, I'm having Dennis Wise flashbacks and shit, and it's keeping me up at night.
I disagree with you having to have that sense of realization. Matt, the past 8 years has set an expectation for what this club should be from the top down. We shouldn't be in this position. This position is purely due to mismanagement throughout the club, whether it's at the top with Rudkin and Whelan and the way they've gone about this mess, whether it's in the decision-making around Rodgers, whether it's in the investment in the players. This is self-inflicted. This isn't a real Leicester City, and as fans of Leicester City, we should not be coming to terms with the fact that we're relegated. This isn't 20 years ago. This isn't the days of Junior Lewis and Spencer Pryor and all of those. This isn't Filbert Street anymore. This is a team that has had significant investment, has the 4th biggest wage bill, 180 million a year we spend in wages. This is just a mess. And I know we'll talk about it in the off season, what needs to happen to change this, mate. But no, you shouldn't think that this is the result of mismanagement, and us as fans have to suffer from this. Players are going to leave in the summer. We know who's going to leave. Like those guys, you can argue they're just playing it in at this moment in time. But it's just, don't feel like this shouldn't happen to Leicester City, mate. Like this really
no, you're right. You're right. But I was thinking that as many books and stories and studies that have been done or could be done in the future on our title winning season, I think it would be just as interesting 10 years from now to get the real story on what the fuck has happened with this club behind the scenes, because there's just things that don't make sense, that you go down in these little questions at the time where we were like, that's weird. The chickens are all coming home to roost now, as far as all the weird little things that we've wondered about and seen and questioned, and we're really starting to see it now, Jim.
Yeah, like Matt, to your point of what was our low point? Oh, I wish I could moan about Claude Puel and his team right now.
Oh yeah,
at least that team.
Boring football.
10th
place.
Yeah, exactly. This, and Chris, to your point, this is the team that's the 17th richest club on revenue in the world, 17th highest revenue in the world. But look at how much we are spending. Look how much money we've lost. Yet I feel like what we have, to the point of mismanagement and sort of becoming complacent, the fact that we had the revenue we did was about success on the pitch. Look, it's right that we rewarded players that got us there, but to kind of consistently overpay for the mediocrity that we have signed is criminal. Like, think about, like, we don't know exactly how much everybody earns, but talk of Vestergaard being on 80 grand a week, talk of Samare being on that. Look, I saw talk of already putting KDH on that level sort of money after sort of one season of really playing, signing signing players that we aren't using. Like, where's Harry Suter gone already? Tete, we know he's a lone player and he's not made the grade. Not having a sort of a plan for when people leave. I think Schmeichel is clearly something's going to come out when we see that he left, but to leave as quickly as he did, I'm not saying that if we had Schmeichel, we would not be relegated, because I think he was clearly on the wane and his performances at Nice have shown that. But the leadership, the fact that the standards that he set would not be tolerated. Paying a freaking manager £8 million a year, who then at the first sign of adversity threw everybody under the bus before himself. Look, I think we talked about this in the pod I think everyone is like looking back now and saying, what was the point we thought that the wheels were falling off? Like, I think there are a number of people who sort of said, including that I think us on this pod, I'm not saying, hey, look at us out with our clairvoyance, but should Rodgers have gone at the end of last season, or should he have certainly gone after we had a terrible start to this season? I think we had the run before the World Cup that flattered to deceive in a way, because it wasn't sustainable. And I think the change would have been good for everybody. At the point when your coach is blaming the management, leadership, that he's not getting what he needs, he's not able to do it. Yet he still, how much did we spend over the winter transfer window, really? It wasn't like we had to go and rub two pennies together and get free transfers and loans. We did get Wout in, not really convinced. I think that was a bit of a panic buy. There's probably others over, and it was probably more of a, oh crap, we need to just get someone in who fits our profile. The fact that we had one of our best defenders in the last recent games under Soyuncu just not being with the squad and training on his own. Like, we can look at all that compounding, and I think it's death of 1,000 cuts. It's just players falling off. I think I look at last night, Madison, I don't know if he's overcompensating. I think he's a player that you can see actually does care. I think he's got some personal pride, but I think it's showing. But again, he's doing too much, and it's making him ineffective on the pitch. Like, how many times did he spin 360 degrees, 720 degrees, like he was freaking Tony Hawk with the ball, and then just not release it or play a pass that was a panic pass at the end? Yuri Tielemans moves less than a freaking foosball player. He moves side to side, and he can kick a ball hard like a fucking foosball midfielder. Like, that to me is like, there's no organization, there's no effort. And I've been a bit worried about Smith the last couple of games, that when it wasn't working, he wasn't changing things. Like, the first game he came in, we talked about this and said basically best in-game management we have seen this season. Low bar.
Yeah. 55th minute, he was making changes.
Yeah. And then last night, we were probably out of it by that point, right? But like, react, do something. Like, it was too easy for Liverpool. There was no pressing, and there was no pressure. And, I think Matt Piper talked about this on Radio Leicester, but there's a difference between pressing and pressure. Pressing is everybody organized and squeezing out and making the pitch smaller for the opposition. Pressure is individual players going and harrying the ball carrier or putting pressure on runners to stay close. And we didn't do either. We just said, Liverpool, wander around like you are playing in a freaking Soccer Aid testimonial. So this is the most, and I think you can probably hear in all our voices that this is just sort of so just upsetting that we're sort of seeing this Foxes never quit, like, as our mantra, not being even lived up to. And I don't think there's a pointing the finger at what, singular people. I think it's just like, how did this happen, and all of this in one go?
It's just the fact that it's been almost a decade since we've been in this situation. I mean, like I've said it before, but I've got an 8-year-old dog named Nigel, because when we won the championship, I thought as a Leicester fan, winning the championship by 104 points or 106 points, whatever it was, that was as good as it was going to get for us, right? And now, you bring up such a good point about having to point fingers at the top and those involved, and no pun intended, but guys, top is not, I'm having a tough time not pointing to some of the fingers at top here. And, he has so much infinite goodwill from us as supporters. It really almost feels, I don't even know, like it doesn't feel right even saying it, but to not have pulled the trigger on Brendan sooner, to not have looked at some of the recruitment done by Rudkin and some of these players that, like you said, are not on the pitch now, and the contracts given to Ryan Bertrand and Vestergaard, and just go down the list, and to not see, hey, this isn't how it was when Dad was running the show. I think to either to not ask for help and be like, hey, what do you guys think we should do here? Or B, to just say, I'm doing this on my own because I'm in charge now and I'm going to make the calls and I'm going to leave these guys. And I mean, it just seems like it's just been a disaster, Chris.
Yeah, I might I might give you a counter to that. Like, if you think of big business, yes, certain decisions are made at the chairman level, but ultimately, as a company, you're only as best as the employees that you employ. And he's employing Whelan and he's employing John Rudkin as director of football to make these decisions on a daily basis. Like, the guy maybe just isn't as involved as chairman compared to what it was previously. And he's entrusting people like Whelan and like Rudkin to make these decisions. I mean, give me a second on John Rudkin here. This guy, as director of football, may be a guy that not only relegates us from the Premier League, he takes our under-21s down into Division 2 in the same season through his appointment of youth team coaches. I mean, he's the academy under him. Yes, we had some people come through, but that's been it since then. KDH, Barnes, nothing else coming. We're just sending people out on loan, paying them ridiculous wages. Like, the blame, I don't know whether Top is solely to blame for this. I think ultimately some of the decisions in terms of of the people below him who on day-to-day running the club have to be looked at. I mean, we have a CFO that spends more time negotiating with Australian loan sharks than he does probably looking at the wage budget, thinking, hang on a minute, are we paying George Hurst 60 grand a week to go to Ipswich on loan? Like, I think just across the board, it's just complacency. It's just a lack of discipline. I think, to echo Jim's points when he talked about the game and he talked about pressing, all of this requires discipline. And you think about, I go to the second goal yesterday from the goal from Alisson's kick, where we're playing a high line. We're trying to minimize that space. And you have Castagne on the other end of the pitch, 5 yards back compared to the other three defenders. Like, that's discipline. That's just a lack of discipline. It's your fullback who has a perfect view of the line we're trying to play. And instead of looking across it and being flat, he's just 5 yards back, not giving anything. And it's those things that, just to Jim's point, death by 1,000 paper cuts add up. But ultimately, it's just toxic at the minute, mate. It really, really is.
And I think I can't disagree with anything on that. But I think what I've heard about sort of Susan Whelan is that she's a tenacious negotiator, that she's really well respected amongst the other CEOs in the Premier League. And if she says stuff, people listen. So I would be very interested to see who created the long leash for Rodgers and not wanting to change things. I don't know if I'm like, this is accurate, but like, I haven't seen Susan Whelan as much in crowd shots. I see Top and I see Rudkin. I think we all kind of know that, like, Rudkin's background has been, he was sort of running the youth setup, and then, as you said, Chris, kind of like Steve Beaglehole for how long was our under 21, then under 23 coach that didn't play a style that was matching our first 11, which a lot of academies do. And it was a big jobs for the boys, and Beaglehole was his guy, and he played hoop football, and he'd like all the strong big kids. And we'd seen, there wasn't an appreciation for bringing through talent consistently. And the players that have come through have all had to go out on loan and do stuff. Just look at the fact that we got rid of our loans manager, Guy Branston, who was doing a great job, and then no one was talking to our loanees out at the clubs. And then we finally get Robert Huth in, and he kind of goes and makes changes and says some of these players are out there not playing, but they're also not growing anyway. Like, we have $100 million training facility in Seagrave. we've had more injuries in the last 2 seasons than any other Premier League team I can think of. We've had, we prided up, we won the league and we got to, we got to like our high positions by outrunning, outfighting, and having the heart. And I think we've seen it just like drop off a cliff, and we saw it coming the last season. The mentality had gone. I think saying we bottled some big games and events is, I don't think, inaccurate. Like, think about, we had a great chance to get to the final of the Europa Conference. We bottled even getting out the group stages of the Europa League in a pretty easy group, apart from Napoli, yeah. Right? We shouldn't have failed on that. The tail offs that we've had are scary. Look, we've had massive highs, and I think everybody's probably seen the sort of on Facebook and social media the story, the Leicester City with the Genie story or whatever about, hey, you get 9 years of all this stuff and then you're going to get relegated again and you're going to take it. And I think, look, to have the memories of the last 9 years and win the league and win the FA Cup and get to quarterfinals of the Champions League, get to the semi-finals of another European Cup, and then say at the end of it you have to get relegated. 2013 we'd have taken it, right? But this is 2023 and I don't want to take it. I don't want to pay now, right? Sorry, this is like Dante's this is like, whatever, the contract, the devil's coming to cash in on now on your soul, and we don't want to pay up, but it's not. But I think the fact is, it's just through the level of just sort of lack of planning, lack of continuity planning, lack of sort of trying to build a squad. I don't know, eating up our money because we've overpaid players that maybe have been on too long a contracts, letting players run down contracts that we should have tried to ship and sell. I know we probably maybe did market Yuri Tillemans. We got him to sign another 1-year extension. I think we're all happy at the time that he did it, but we also were worried that, is this just another repeat of last year? I think we've seen completely different Yuri this season than we did.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
The kind of Jamie Vardy, he's in, he's out, he's in. Luckily he got some goals, but the guy's offside all the time. We're not thinking about it. I think we've been really unlucky with Iheanacho getting injured as he did. Think about how long ago does it feel like Iheanacho's groin exploding to create the assist to the assist?
Yep.
I feel like that's a different lifetime away. That guy put his body on the line, clearly was in incredible pain. And just the fact that throughout the season, whenever he's been called on, he's at least put effort in and quite often tried. Think about a season when we thought we were going to get, in shit the other time. And he came and scored how many goals? He was our top scorer. Some of that stuff has just gone out. But I think just at the moment, it's where's Mendy? Again, a year ago, would we have said, where's Mendy, if he knew Ndidi was going to start? Where's Wilf gone? Yeah, I think I'm going to give him credit, but Samare actually tried again in the second half yesterday. I think Harvey Barnes just is sort of an enigma, right? He gets goals. Look at his stats. Great. Maddison not really doing it. But Jamie Vardy was 30 yards on his own for 90% of that game. And we couldn't get the ball. We couldn't get to them. Timothy Castaña's just dropped off the face of the earth from a guy that was how many weeks ago since he scored the goal that was, to make it, to tie the game. And he just seems like he's got zero confidence in his own abilities, in what he's doing. It's just, you look across the pitch, Luke Thomas came on and tried, but we know he's limited in what he can do. I was screaming for someone like Wout Vass after, the first mistake. I don't want to see this guy play again the rest of the season. Yeah, he gets he gets 7.1 on who scored. Who knows what who scored, rate it from. The fact he probably did some last ditch tackle, right? But at least like we had a few corners, no threat. Set pieces, no threat. James Maddison, who's supposedly one of the best dead ball takers from England in the Premier League, cannot hit a Leicester player to save his life.
Yeah. I don't know, man. When was the last time any of you got excited over a free kick? Like when we got a free kick anywhere around the pitch? Like I'm resolved to the fact that it's just not going in. We're going to hit the line. Same with penalties now. I know we're going to miss penalties. Like it's as bad as it's been, man, in a very long time. And it's not fun. And I don't even know. When you watch an effort like that, it's not even as if we had guys getting red cards because they're throwing last ditch tackles, like bad tackles, because they're getting frustrated. We just got a bunch of guys just don't give a fuck. Like they're literally talking to their agents after, like, where am I playing next year? And that's, for me, that's what I think is the most disappointing.
Well, based on some of the performances they're putting on the pitch, not much higher than we might be next season anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, I think 3/4 of this team will, end up playing at a higher level if we end up.
Oh yeah, Timothy Castaña's got like Wolfsburg written all over him. Yuri Tielemans has got, Eintracht Frankfurt. I think you think that Dennis Pratt is going to go, Liga, maybe.
Yeah,
but the guy, like Dennis Pratt, to his credit, he actually tried last game. He was inept, but he tried.
Yeah.
I feel like
for the
like
counts.
Victor Christensen is trying but inept. Same with Luke Thomas. Like is that I don't know what like
I know what you're saying, Jim, but I'm just so far past the fucking point of he tried real hard. Like I am just beyond that point with this team, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah,
Chris.
Is it like James Maddison's going to go to Villa, isn't he? We know it.
Yeah, or Newcastle.
My prediction, he's not going. I don't think he'll be good enough for Newcastle. Like the way he plays, if he gets back on his form and he's doing well, but like I think he's got Villa written all over him.
He's the new Grealish.
Well, I think he's just like they're gonna just spend a shit ton of money. They seem to be though, super rich now. They're kind of punching. He can be a big dog at that team. Sorry, people who are probably screaming at them, so James Maddison's better than that. But like Yuri Tielemans is definitely not going to be in a Premier League team.
Yuri Tielemans might be playing for St. Louis FC, if I'm being quite honest.
If he's lucky.
No, I echo your points, Jim. I think, I mean, based on the performances, these players at best mid-table Premier League, probably
worst,
more likely.
I would say at worst, probably 19th in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the obvious one is, I think people have said this, but Barnes to someone like West Ham seems like the kind of shoe-in.
Or maybe Barnes is the Villa shoe-in.
Yeah,
could be.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I feel like someone like Harvey Barnes is someone who might just try and stay for a season if we go down.
We'll see. I would love.
I feel like Ricardo Pereira, even though he could get some, he would be someone who might stay for a season. I just feel like that guy has. Again, he just came back from injury and he started against Liverpool. Johnny Evans came back from Johnny Evans on the team sheet last night was a big shock for me. Why don't you just play against the most dynamic front three in the league, where like Liverpool have been underperforming all season, but now Jurgen Klopp and team have probably said, "Hey, I'm having enough of this. We're going back in the Champions League." They look like a team who are on a mission to go and just, I've watched the last few games they played. They're on a mission to crush everybody. You've got Klopp's got attitude. He gives us, he was arguing about nothing. And then we hadn't seen that, Brendan Rodgers with his little claps, as, Pipe says, nothing, no inspiration. So anyway, I think we're kind of apologies. Hopefully, listeners are like enjoying the rant and thinking they're not alone as they listen to us. You're certainly not alone. With
they're
this.
just hearing shit they've been saying in their own brains.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think just to spend 2 minutes on that, when you saw the lineup yesterday and you saw Evans in the team, it did give that sense of almost like the rolling of the last dice, like kind of just
100%, dude.
It's like Matt,
listen.
you're playing FIFA or something, and you've got your last game, and you see the player at 72%. You're like, I'm just putting him in, give me 60 minutes. I mean, the ironic thing, and the thing that I thought was just great, is that we're 3-0 down, and we started to do bloody man management with some of the like 2 games of the season left, our season in tatters, and we're bringing off Evans and Ricardo at 60 and 65 minutes because of just bringing them back from injury. I thought Ricardo was quite good yesterday.
Evans played 89 minutes.
Evans 89, sorry.
Yeah,
I switched off at 80, mate. I just couldn't watch the last 10 minutes.
I think like the Harvey Barnes substitution was the most shocking for me out that 60th minute one, because it was a bit like he's sort of trying. He can run. He's he's got like something in his locker that he can do, and he also brings the balance to the team. And like the fact you saw Tete go and play left midfield for like 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden it was
5
like
seconds.
You guys swap, and it's like Patson Daka. Why? Okay, you had like half a. You put it in for a little bit, dude, as a left midfielder. When Harvey Barnes was out injured, but why aren't we changing the shape? What are we doing? It just was nothing. Sorry, Matt. I know I cut you off then.
No, you didn't at all. I was just thinking back in my head when we decided to fucking ship Marky Albrighton off, and he was really, who would want a high character guy that just his engine just runs 100%, and that compared with Casper leaving, and just watching the identity of what we've built this team around the last decade just slowly strip away. I think it happened so slowly that none of us really even realized that it was happening. And now we're left with a bunch of sellswords and Jamie Vardy, and it's just fucking, man. It's really sad to watch.
We also had, even just to compound it, the tease of yesterday.
Oh yeah, of course.
But then you watch it and you watch the first replay and you're like, no, that's a goal. It's one of those where, okay, first goal, please be VAR. Please be VAR. Oh no way is that VAR. No. In a million years, look at how many players are playing Curtis Jones. He ran from deep. Second goal, hoof. Oh wait. Oh, that could be VAR. That could be nope. Johnny Evans back leg or whatever it was, or was that Castagna the second one? And then the third goal was just Trent Alexander. Why don't you just let the best ball striker, apart from Kevin De Bruyne in the league, have like 2 hours to line up a free kick? Like,
no worries.
Roll it over to him and just don't even close him down. Just let him line it up.
Yep. Well, the calamity continues, guys. Next Monday, for your enjoyment. Just keep the Mondays rolling on here. And we were speaking before the pod, guys, and talking about how I brought up the fact that the Premier League did us no favors with this run in of 4 Mondays in a row, the most crucial part of our season. And Jim or Chris, I can't remember who, but one of you rightly said that. Or maybe they were just giving us a stage to do it on prime time to save our season and have something to show. And instead, we've just done the exact opposite and
shit the bed.
Shown how inept we were.
National TV. Yeah, I guess is there silver lining for US Foxes that we're actually at work and we can just don't have to worry about it now. I know we all have to either sneak a glance or avoid social media and watch it that evening. Yeah. And on one hand, you two are my best friends, and it's like, text me and tell me not to bother. But I also know that like you don't want to do that because it's like, we don't want to. We know you want to, and I think it's the same for all of us. I think everybody who's a Leicester fan, if you want to avoid it and watch it as live, as we like to say, we respect our friends that we don't We let them enjoy it, and then they can
Right.
text you afterwards and say, "What the hell?" And you let them wallow, or you let them enjoy, because win or lose, we're Leicester fans, and we will all cancel our Peacock subscriptions very shortly, because nothing else to really watch on Peacock anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I guess is iPlayer cheaper? No, it's
it's not actually, which makes sense. No,
I follow iPlayer. iPlayer is free.
I follow something. Don't worry, guys. We'll keep you all posted if that becomes the reality of how we have to watch games next year on how to make that all work. But I found myself in the weird position this week, Jim, of consoling some newer American fans that became fans around 2016 in our San Diego Foxes group chat, and just explaining to them. And luckily I've Chris in that same chat to just remind us of who we were and the fact that we were a yo-yo club. But then, yeah, Chris, you make such a good point. I struggle with the fact that we now have $100 million training facility in Seagrave, but we're have a very strong chance of being relegated. So,
and to those Leicester fans that joined us in 2015-16, welcome to the real Leicester.
You're one of us now. Yeah,
you're one of us, and it's more exciting. And please don't become Burnley fans because of JJ Watt.
Yeah, what is that about, dude? That's the new cool thing for NFL players, is to own a chunk or a percentage of a football team.
All I'll say is, you guys, next season, if we do go down, you're in for one hell of a geography lesson when we start having to explain where some of these places are.
Yeah. And we look forward to Matt pronouncing some of them on the pod as well.
Can't wait.
We'll have Norwich back.
Absolutely can't wait. Norwich back. Yeah. All sorts of fun stuff. So, yeah, guys, Monday we'll roll around. And one thing we know for sure is Leicester will play Newcastle. They will line up on the pitch against each other. Beyond that, who the fuck knows? We can hope for the best, but they've given us no reason to do that thus far. So just being honest with you guys, we'll see what happens. And yeah, we'll be here to report on it, because after that match, it's West Ham on the final Sunday, and God only knows. Hopefully we're in a position where we're table watching at that point, but few results either way, and it could all be over. But as we've said 500 times on this podcast, guys, no matter what happens, we will be here to commiserate with you or celebrate with you, hopefully. And yeah, that's why we do this thing, and we thank you guys for listening to us do it each week or so, depending on how our work schedules work out. So on that note, Chris, final words for the listeners before we head off into the night.
Well, if you're the Leicester City business development team, you are the most confident people, I think, in the club at this moment in time, because judging from the announcement today, Matt, a week before the start of the Championship, 2 weeks before the Premier League, we're in Singapore playing Liverpool in a pre-season friendly. So those guys are optimistic, at least in the BD department. So who knows? Maybe they know something that we don't know.
Well, someone's optimistic. Jim, your feelings.
Keep the faith.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay, I love it, guys. On that note, for our other co-host going to make it tonight in New York City, Mr. Jason Becker, who he hopefully can join us back next week and let you know, because he's got some strong feelings as well. So hopefully the boys do something on Monday that completely throw a cog in that and make us all come back and be very hopeful next week on the US Foxes podcast. But until then, thank you for joining us as always. We love you. We ain't going nowhere. The Foxes might be going down, but we'll be there regardless. So thank you, as always, for joining us on the US Foxes podcast, and we will see you next time. Cheers.